Halo Infinite, the latest Halo game, released in November of 2021. And also around that time, Call of Duty Vanguard came out, and this year, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 released. So since November of 2021, we have gotten one Halo game and two Call of Duty games. And that is no surprise because Call of Duty games release yearly, that is until next year, because there's reportedly not going to be a Call of Duty game for 2023. And as many of you are well aware at this point, because it has been discussed ad nauseum, Halo Infinite is not in a good spot right now, even a year after launch, and it is highly unlikely this game ever recovers to a spot where a mainline Halo game should be. And currently, with the newest Call of Duty game, Modern Warfare 2, it's in a pretty good spot. There's definitely some things wrong with the game, many things that people dislike about it, but the game has been very successful, like the fastest selling COD game of all time, and it's still a very populated game. But you know, Call of Duty hasn't always done well. It's had some games that weren't received too well from the community. They may have sold well, right? There may have been a lot of revenue made from those games. But when we just look at a game like Call of Duty Vanguard, which released in the same month as Halo Infinite, it was a game that many people were disappointed with. Many people were bored of that game before it even released. So last year when Call of Duty Vanguard released, COD was sort of in a rough spot. There were some redeeming qualities with that game, like the fact that it launched with 20 maps, which might be the most maps a Call of Duty game has ever launched with. Fact check me on that, I'm not sure. And it's funny because Halo Infinite, which released in the same month, launched with the least amount of multiplayer maps in a mainline Halo game. So you could see the contrast there. But here's the thing. Call of Duty and Halo are different. Not only because they're different games, but they do different things. They have different release schedules. Like Call of Duty, up until next year, released yearly. You get a new game every year. So when a COD game is deemed bad, the community gets another one next year, right? They get a new COD game in 1 year later. And also, if a COD game releases and you think it's bad, well, the previous COD game is still only 1 year old. People play games for years, for decades. So 1 year old isn't even that bad. So with Call of Duty, you have options that you don't get with Halo. A Call of Duty game releases and you have the option of playing the current Call of Duty, waiting a year till the next Call of Duty, or going back and playing the Call of Duty game that's only 1 year old. So if a Call of Duty game releases and it sucks, it can be a lot easier for COD to bounce back. With Halo, at first we had a Halo game release every 3 years, then Halo 4 released about 2 years after Halo Reach, and then Halo 5 3 years after Halo 4, and then we had to wait 6 years from Halo 5 to Halo Infinite. And that's such a big reason why Infinite sucking is just so much worse than if Halo released yearly. Imagine that. Imagine Halo released yearly and then Halo Infinite sucked. That's not nearly as bad as waiting 6 years for that game and it's sucking as bad as it does. And we know the reasons it sucks. So many of us have covered this over and over again, right? And I mean, Halo Infinite was missing many things that the older Halo games had, even decade-old Halo games, right? So that's the problem. Again, with Call of Duty, if a game sucks, you have options. And an additional option that I didn't even mention, if you didn't like a COD Vanguard, is you had Warzone. Modern Warfare 2019 Warzone, which was still being supported at that time. Like, you have so many options with COD, right? Again, Call of Duty Vanguard releases, it sucks. You wait a year for the next COD game, you go back and play the 1-year-old COD game, you play the current COD game, or you play Warzone. You have so many fucking options, man. Now, yeah, you also have options with Halo, but your options are a little different, right? So Halo Infinite releases, and it sucks, and now you have the option of waiting for the next mainline Halo game, which who knows when or if that's ever going to happen, right? You just had to wait 6 years for Halo Infinite, so who knows how long you'll be waiting for the next one. You could go back and play the older Halo games, but the most recent older Halo game is Halo 5, and that was 6 years old by the time Halo Infinite released. And then you also have Halo the Master Chief Collection as an option, which still gets some updates, although support has slowed down for the game and it may eventually end sometime soon, considering the game is not monetized and, you know, it's goes on sale on Steam all the time, so there's not a ton of money to be made there anymore. But anyways, MCC is another option, but it's a collection of all these really old Halo games. A collection of Halo games that are all at least a decade old. Halo 1 being 2 decades old. So you can see, like, yeah, you have options when a Halo game sucks, but it's a little bit different than when a Call of Duty game sucks, you know what I mean? And so it makes you wonder, would Halo have done better with a yearly release cycle? Or maybe not yearly release from the beginning, but maybe once 343 took over, then they released Halo games yearly. I mean, imagine that, right? 343, they take over Halo, and they start releasing Halo games. Okay, well, you have different studios working on Call of Duty, Sledgehammer, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, and, you know, that's how they release a Call of Duty game every year. So maybe it wasn't just 343 that worked on Halo. Maybe you had 2 other studios as well, right? Something like that. So let's just say Halo games started releasing yearly after Bungie stopped making Halo, right? If that were the case, when Halo 4 releases, and a lot of people don't like it, you only have to wait a year for the next game. Halo 5 releases, many people don't like that, a year for the next game. Halo Infinite, right? Just 1 year apart. Now, Halo, there's a lot of different aspects to a Halo game, right? You know, you got your Forge, your campaign, your multiplayer. Maybe it doesn't have all that, right? Maybe you only get a new campaign every 3 years or whatever, but maybe you get a new multiplayer Halo every year. And that way they could have tried different things, right? They could have done the Call of Duty thing 1 year, the enhanced mobility thing another year, try a classic Halo game, right? A completely classic multiplayer Halo game another year. You know, you can try different things that way when it's not long term. Like if the Halo game does not have to be the mainline Halo game for 3 years, you know, you can experiment a little bit more, right? I'm not saying I would be in favor of, you know, experimenting and taking Halo in all these weird directions, but I'm just saying, if a Halo game releases and it doesn't feel like Halo, but Halo releases yearly, that would not be nearly as bad as having to wait 3 years for the next game. And again, with Halo Infinite, who knows how long we're going to be waiting until the next Halo game. Now, at the time I'm recording this, Halo Infinite has about 5,000 people playing on Steam. Who knows how many people are playing on the Microsoft Store? Probably isn't too much, and we don't really know the numbers on Xbox. But Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, the most recent COD game, it's number 4 on Steam right now. I know a lot of people play this game on Battle.net. People play on Xbox, PlayStation. COD's doing really well right now. And again, this newest Call of Duty game was the fastest selling COD game. COD is in a much better spot than Halo right now. And that wasn't always the case. It was actually quite the opposite at one point, where Halo was on top, where Halo overshadowed Call of Duty back in the day. Halo 1, Halo 2, and then with Halo 3 they started competing. Halo 3 versus Call of Duty 4, right? And slowly Call of Duty pulled away. And it's no secret why. It's not necessarily that COD games just got better. I mean, Halo just killed itself. it made obvious mistakes along the way, again, which we've covered ad nauseum. And I understand that Halo switched developers along the way, right? And that's an important thing to remember when thinking about Halo's decline, because if Halo stayed with Bungie, I still think Halo would be a top game today. But you know, Bungie, they didn't want to work on Halo anymore, and that's some people try to, like, when I say that, they're like, oh, but Bungie didn't want to work on it anymore. Like, okay, and that doesn't mean anything. I understand that. I'm just saying, if it did stay with them, I do think Halo would be in a much better spot today. But yeah, if they didn't want to work on Halo anymore, I mean, that's their decision. They made 3, 4, if you count ODST, incredible Halo games, and then they passed the torch. And then 343 just ran that shit into the ground. But you know, Call of Duty also has multiple different developers that make COD games: Sledgehammer, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, and they've all made successful Call of Duty games. Like, the disparity between a Bungie Halo game and a 343 Halo game is not nearly as drastic between a Treyarch COD game or a Infinity Ward COD game and a Sledgehammer COD game. Yeah, you might have your favorites, your favorite COD developer, but again, those games are closer in quality than a Bungie Halo game compared to a 343 Halo game. And another game that's had multiple developers is Gears of War. It started with Epic, and then the Coalition eventually took over. And you know, unless you're like a really hardcore Gears fan, many of the casual fans aren't going to see any big differences between the Epic Gears games and the Coalition Gears games. Like, when I look at the Coalition Gears games, it looks like Gears, right? And I'm like a really casual Gears fan. Like, I just play the campaigns and that's it. And like, I don't see any like big glaring differences, you know what I mean? So, you know, Epic Games passed the torch to the Coalition, and they carried Gears forward much better than 343 did. Now, I don't know if that's a fair comparison. I don't really know the whole situation with Gears. Like, did Epic developers, Gears of War developers that were with Epic, did they move over to the Coalition to continue developing Gears? Is that what happened? I don't know. But either way, man, 343 has mishandled the Halo franchise so poorly. And I just don't see this with other franchises that have either switched developers or have multiple developers making games for that series. And I'm not overlooking that 343's situation could be different than these other games. Like, 343 inherited an engine that Bungie created, and apparently that engine was kind of tough to work with. You know, I'm not overlooking that, but still 343 has made many mistakes with the Halo franchise that they shouldn't have made. Like, it's not even just like, it's conscious decisions they made that were horrible. It wasn't just things like, oh, Bungie did this and 343 just couldn't replicate that. Some of the time, it's 343 went ahead and did all these other things that do require additional work, like kill streaks in Call of Duty and kill streaks in Halo 4 and custom classes and stuff like that are just horrible in Halo, right? Like, that they're doing more work, but it's bad for Halo, you know what I mean? So anyways, like I mentioned, the current Call of Duty game, Modern Warfare 2022, is doing very well right now. It's doing well with its offerings at launch. It's doing well with its live service. It's doing well with its store even. It's doing well with its Christmas. They're giving out like some free Christmas cosmetics in the store. They have a Christmas themed shipment, which is actually really cool, and I've been really enjoying that. Like, the whole map is Christmas themed. Even some of the lights outside of the map are Christmas themed. You got a fucking Santa sleigh coming by with like jingle bells playing and shit. You know, when I look at a game like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2022, it looks and feels like a Call of Duty game that released in 2022. right? It looks like a current Call of Duty game, right? I don't see that same thing when I look at Halo Infinite. Even last year in 2021 when it released. It had so many issues, missing so many things. Not going to run through all of them again. It looked like it looked like it didn't even compare to decade-old Halo games, right? Like that's what I thought when I look at Halo Infinite. Even today, after being out for a year. And I have criticized the new COD because there are things I really don't like about the game. I don't like the unlock system. I hate the fucking maps. But guess what? Since launch, we've gotten two new maps. Well, remade maps, but Shoot House and Shipment. And I like both of those maps way more than all the launch maps in Modern Warfare 2. And I said I don't like the unlock system, and I'm really not a fan of Warzone at all. And there was a lot of technical issues with the game when it launched, but that's another thing, man. Like I mentioned, like the live service for this new COD game has been pretty good. Like when it launched, the game ran like shit. It was missing things, but they like added all this stuff pretty quick. They fixed up the performance pretty quick. They added combat records and prestiges which weren't in there at launch. They added two maps, Shoot House and Shipment. They added a raid. Like they are adding things. Like they're fast with it. You know what I mean? Like when Halo Infinite releases and all this shit's broken and missing stuff, it takes months, years possibly to fix these things. Call of Duty's doing it like a couple weeks, month or two. Like, yeah, that's the treatment like a current game should get. What we're seeing with the newest COD, and we're not seeing that same kind of treatment and live service with Halo Infinite, not at all. And the new Modern Warfare 2 has a wide variety of content, right? You have the campaign, you have your normal multiplayer, you have Spec Ops, you did have like a Rocket League mode, which wasn't really good. The playlist has since been removed, but it was there. You have raids, you have Warzone, you have DMZ, and yeah, Warzone and DMZ are free to play, but if they weren't free to play, they would be part of the $70 package. So there's a lot of variety there. The one thing I will say about that though is, although there's a lot of variety, some of that stuff can be a little lackluster. Like the raid was all right, but it's not like a Destiny raid. Spec Ops is meh. Many people would prefer a zombies. DMZ, from what I understand, doesn't really live up to extraction shooters like Tarkov. A lot of people like Warzone 1 better than Warzone 2. So not all of that stuff is great, but it's like, it's there. It's a ton of variety. And again, like I mentioned, the live service has been pretty good so far as well. And I think sometime soon, maybe the beginning of 2023, I think we'll be getting ranks in the game. And eventually we'll be getting Warzone combat record. And so anyways, the new Call of Duty is doing a lot better than Halo Infinite in all these different areas. Launching as a finished game, live service, even the fucking store is better, right? Like, I'm not saying the way it's priced is better. I'm just saying like the items in the fucking store look like items that would be in a store in Modern Warfare 2. And I can't say the same for Halo Infinite. But anyways, I think that's going to do it for this one. I just wanted to talk about that because I see how a lot of the problems Halo faces today could be drastically mitigated if Halo released yearly. Again, the Halo games might not have been as, jam-packed full of content as a Halo game usually is, with the campaign, the custom games, the Forge, the theater, and all that. But I can see Halo being a lot better off if it released yearly, even if that means it was only like a multiplayer, it was only matchmaking for the game, and you got a campaign every 3 years or something like that. But yeah, this whole waiting 6 years and then not knowing how long we're going to have to wait till the next mainline Halo. It's just not going to cut it, especially when the live service is fucking horrible for the current Halo game, Halo Infinite. It's just not in a good spot, and Call of Duty's over there fucking killing it. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.